Welcome, everybody, to Mindset Monday. I'm your host, Denise Zach. Thank you so much for being here and for tuning in. I have an amazing guest today, and I cannot wait to bring her on and talk to her. And she's going to be on in just a couple of seconds, but I want to talk to you a little bit about this Mindset Monday podcast. If you've never heard of it before, if you've never been here before, this is about getting into those 6 inches in between your ears. I talk to founders, entrepreneurs, people who are being successful. And I learn about their story, how they became successful, because we look at people from the outside, we think everything's perfect. But what we don't realize is they've not been an overnight success. They have worked hard, they have come against barriers, they have had struggles in their life, and they've figured out a way to overcome. They've worked through their challenges, and they have become the person they are today as a result of their mindset. That's what this podcast is about. This podcast is also part of the Game Plan U community. I bring on the founders and entrepreneurs and the executives and residents within the Game Plan U community that works with startups in the sports tech innovation and wellness industry. And we talk about their successes and their failures and their restarts and their growth. And so if you haven't found the Game Plan U community, please check us out at www.gameplanu.org and click the like and subscribe button to this podcast, hopefully, if you like this content and you'd like to learn more and watch more and see more of what we do. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest today. I just met her a few weeks ago via some really, really great friends and colleagues, Rob Thompson and Ryan J. Esposito. And she is a bundle of energy. She is amazing. She's doing so many amazing things in terms of her authorship, in terms of her network, in the companies that she's CEO of. And so I'm, without further ado, going to bring her on. Her name is Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino. She is CEO. I'm going to bring you up here, Elizabeth. Let's see that face. Hi, Kate. How are you?
Welcome. What a beautiful intro to your show.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Rob Thompson, good job.
Well, actually, he set me up with the website to do it. It's placeit.net, and I put it together. So it was a fun thing to do. So anyone looking to make an intro or an outro for your podcast, placeit.net, and I'm not getting paid by them, but hey, they do a great job. And it's pretty inexpensive. But Elizabeth, you are just amazing. You are CEO of 2 companies, not one, but 2 companies, right? The Compliance For and also the Best Ever You Network. And not only that, but you are the author of 8 books, one coming out very soon. And tell us a little bit about how you have become an author. And I know that you're also very busy with work and life and home and all of that. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how you became the amazing entrepreneur that you are today.
Well, thank you for that. And I think the first thing to say is that I'm a mom of 4 sons. They are now 20, 22, 24, and 26. And I just want to mention them and my husband, Peter, who I've been married to for, we just say forever now. Yeah. And, without their support and their love and everything, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that I'm able to do. So my husband's in the other room watching our new puppy. Yeah. But, I love what I do. And just like anybody else, I have dreams, I have failures, I have a lot of mindset. Like you mentioned, I love the fact that you mentioned mindset because so much of success is rooted in mindset. And I know you believe that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, the way that we connected was through this Best Ever You network, right? And through your book, your latest book coming out. Can you first tell us about the Best Ever You network? I love it. I dove into the last few weeks, and I just think it's a really great way to get professionals together who are sending similar messages, but really just trying to get information out to people in a way that's palatable and digestible and not overwhelming, and you do it really, really well. So can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so it's besteveryou.com is the website that goes with it. And it's called the Best Ever You Network. We are a free membership network for really anybody to join if you want to use a network to help you be your best, or if you're an author or therapist or business owner, entrepreneur, whatever it is, and you've got a message to put out there, we're almost like free PR in a way. We love your content, your blogs, your video blogs, your everything. And we push that content out into our social media. We also train people to become life coaches. We have books, we have journals. Just my mom likes to say that website of yours has everything but the kitchen sink. I'm like, so somebody come on with the kitchen sink, and we'll have that too. And that's kind of the way we do business. We've outgrown, and we continue to outgrow business plans one by one. And so it's a hard concept to get a business plan in place for, because it grows in different directions that you could never I imagine. Ed Asner just passed away, and I talk about in my book Percolate. One moment I'm eating my Cocoa Puffs, not really, but eating my Cocoa Puffs at the kitchen table, and 2 hours later I'm live interviewing Ed Asner, and that's just kind of the way things go. And so I had the really huge honor of interviewing Ed Asner back in 2011 for my
Wow.
podcast, and I think that's one of the biggest moments that I've
Yeah.
had with owning the Best Ever You Network. It's a podcast of over 600 shows. It's on YouTube, thanks to Rob Thompson giving me a little nudge in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are who we are today because of so many people helping. They give you a little nudge. They give you a little suggestion. They people direct. If you really are open to being a lifelong learner, people will steer you.
I completely agree with that. And I love the fact that you mentioned that, because we talk about mindset a lot and what's going on internally. But what you're talking about is the value of the relationships that we have along the way, and the information that we get from people that kind of pushes us down another path, right? You said with Rob, he said, hey, just go live. And
No, he said, go take a shower. Come on, let's go. Your video, and it was super cute. And I'll never forget it, because I was doing that. I was like, oh, kind of being behind the radio a little bit, and it really propelled us in a new direction. And I'm so grateful for him forever for that.
yeah, it's like you never know, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love it. So what actually prompted you to start the Best Ever You Network in the first place?
Yeah, here's a story.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So again, mom of 4 boys. Back that up to them being, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 6, 8, 10, 12. When the youngest one was ready to go off to kindergarten, I was like, oh, cool. Maybe, just maybe, I'll go get a job again, and put my, hair, makeup, all that good stuff, and go out the door and go to a job. And it turned out to be a job with 4 boys. I'm going to call them boys fighting. It really, truly, it was an office with people in each corner, like a boxing ring almost. And
Wow.
there I was going, oh my gosh, this is not fun. And I closed my door and I wrote, there's got to be something better than this, on a pad of paper. And I'm like, best ever me, best ever you, best ever you. And I quit.
Wow.
Or as Todd Stottlemyre likes to say, you outgrew it rather than quit, because quit's
Yeah.
kind of an interesting
Yeah.
word. But
You
I
learn,
did come home.
yeah,
Oh,
you learn a lot about what you don't want first. So in words of Rob Thompson, again, his ears are going to be ringing after this, but that's the one thing he says so much. You learn what you don't want to do a lot earlier than you learn what you do want to do.
oh yeah. Yeah. And that was not it. So I came home, and I actually powered through that for about a year, and a little and some. And that was sort of a breaking point for me. I had a breaking point. I was like, okay, I'm done here. This isn't going to work. I can feel it and tell it. And so I closed my door, did that, and I wrote an entire business plan for Best Ever You.
Hmm.
That was something to the effect of, the stars come out, but you shine, and all these things, with the intent on doing things like interviewing Ed Asner or
Yeah.
whatever. And but backing that up, I walked through the door and let everybody know that I had quit, and then just sort of, they were all like, what happened? And I
Yeah.
walked in the street. I said, I'm going to take a breather. And I walked down to my neighbor and I said, do you know anything about websites? Here's a plan. And because I really didn't. Now
Yeah.
I kind of program them, and I use Wix and do all these things. But at the time, I didn't know how to register a domain. I didn't know websites. I didn't know how to program intros to video shows like you do, or anything like that. And she registered the domain, and we started Best Ever You. Sorry, this is getting winded. We started Best Ever You, interviewing Kathy Papera, who is my best friend since like kindergarten. And she was sewing baby bibs for people at her kitchen table and selling them. She owned Lily Pad Baby,
Oh,
which was
wow.
a huge company
Yeah.
eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. So just being in a place that was uncomfortable, right? If I'm going to summarize this, you were in a place that was uncomfortable and you just felt like it wasn't right and it wasn't working for you. And it is out of distress very often that we evolve and change. I'm a firm believer that we learn more from the things that go wrong in our life than we ever do from the things that go right. And not that that job was wrong, but it wasn't right for you. Right? Wasn't a good fit for you, right?
Well, packed up to be. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And so you changed um, because you felt like it wasn't the right thing to do, and I can completely get that, and I think that I've heard that story a lot, not that same exact story, but that flavor, right? That something just wasn't sitting right with me anymore, and I had to figure out what my next step was, what my next was going to
And
be.
and truth be told, too, the other thing that wasn't sitting well for me was being away from the kids like that either.
Mm,
It was like, for me, that was like being torn in half.
yeah,
And I'm a human being who is very difficult to watch kids, because 100,000% of me goes in the direction I go in. And that tore me. And I was like, oh, I don't like this feeling.
yeah.
Not that I want to helicopter around them or anything,
Hmm.
but certainly being available to them,
Yeah.
and not having sitters I didn't trust or whatever it was that was going on along with that whole year, made me just, I couldn't focus right.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me personally, focusing for me meant working from home was perfect, and it still is. I've
Yeah.
worked from home for, gosh, we've lived here 20 years.
Wow. That's awesome.
And kind of loved every minute of it, other than the step out that I did with
Yeah.
that position. The other thing I did too was I really soul searched in that moment for going back to what always kind of called what I felt like my calling was,
Mm,
what I was really good at, because sometimes you're trying to force fit things that you want to do, but maybe you're not so great at doing naturally, or it feels like just work kind
yeah.
of feels strange. And for me, I went, oh, I've kind of always been a writer. I went into kindergarten writing, reading, teaching the other kids to read and write. I'm always journaling. I'm always writing. I think there might be a story to tell with this.
Mm,
And that's how Percolate was born. Because when I quit that job, I was like, oh, I really want to write a book. I have no idea how to write a book. Hmm. No idea how to write a book at all. And I did what I normally do, and that's reach out to people who had written books.
hmm.
And one of those people was a gal. One of the people I reached out to, sorry, was a
Yeah.
gal by the name of Michelle Phillips, who
Okay.
had written the Beauty Blueprint, and it was a Hay House book. And it's about the same size as I've got it now, Percolate.
Yeah. Look at that. Yeah.
And yeah, and so this is in large part due to Michelle Phillips going, I can help you.
Yeah.
I love people who do that. I can
Yeah.
help you.
Well,
Isn't that great?
and that's who you are. I mean, you have been the same way with me, and I know with other people as well, just saying, well, I can help you with that. Here's some information. And that sharing of information really helps to create the network that you talk about, that best ever you network, but just helps people collaborate. And I also think also helps build compassion and kindness and camaraderie, which I think is sometimes a lost
Yeah. Oh,
characteristic in our world.
yeah,
So,
and if I can't help you, what I pride myself on is knowing somebody maybe who can.
mm,
So what I really love is that when people, like, maybe not right off the bat as you get to know somebody, but maybe, a few conversations in, somebody be like, I've always had a dream to make a
mm,
I've always had a dream to stand up in front of a crowd of 40,000 people and deliver a speech. No, not me, but yeah,
yeah,
that kind of thing. And you hear what people are really thinking. And
yeah,
I love those moments, because that's a moment when you goal share, somebody will hear it and show up for you.
yeah,
Always. The universe sort of seems to work that way. And I love that.
yeah. You put it out into the universe, and something comes to you, right?
Yeah.
So you talked about having this kind of gut feeling or this internal feeling of finding your calling, right? So can you talk about that a little bit, because I think so often people think they need to do the right thing,
Hmm.
right? As opposed, and whatever that is, I don't know that that necessarily is their calling or the thing that they're meant to do. And we kind of stay stuck in safe places that aren't necessarily the right fit for us. And I know that you talk about this, and I know that that's something that you have even written about. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, it can be a really uncomfortable thing to have a moment where you're like, you know, what I really want to do is bake cookies. Let's do
Yeah,
cookies. Everybody loves cookies, right?
yeah,
And I love baking chocolate chip cookies.
yeah,
Um, but when you are working like a 9 to 5 job as an accountant, let's just throw it completely, you know, polar, and all of a sudden you're like, you know, I'm really not happy being an accountant anymore. What I really want to do is start a cookie business.
mm,
There's a crowd around you that goes, what?
right,
What do you want to do? Wait a minute. I didn't even know you bake cookies
right,
or whatever, you know, whatever it is. And then there's another crowd that sometimes shows up. That's the naysayers. Like I had when I started Best Ever You, they were like, well, you're nothing but a washed up soccer mom at age 40, whatever you are. And I'm like, whoa, my kids don't even play soccer, dude. They play baseball, you know? And so you know, it's all over the place. So when I think the message is to stand firm in your dreams and goals and desires, because they're your dreams and goals and desires. Even if you need to like bubble wrap,
yeah,
you to do what you need to do to stay focused and do what you need to do, because there are a lot of people who come your way who try to steer you in a direction or another, and that's based sometimes on their own experiences.
right,
There are a lot of people who will show up when you're trying to do something and say, you can't do that.
yeah,
Can't ever play in the MLB. You're too short. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't. You hear a lot of you can't do that,
mm,
rather than you can do that. You go. You go. You do it. You
yeah,
dream big and all those things. So there's different crowds of people that show up. And so I really love to bring people back to that, to what they're passionate about,
mm,
help them focus
yeah, I
and
love
dream and set those goals. And if it, whether it's a tiny goal or a huge dream,
yeah,
whatever it is, there's space and there's room for all of us too.
mm.
That collaboration piece is big. Hopefully that answered your question
No,
to some
absolutely.
degree.
No, absolutely. I love it. It's great. And you know, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people struggle with that because it might not feel like the logical thing to do. It might not feel like the rational thing, like to change from being an accountant to a baker. Like, what are you crazy? You know?
Yeah, that's what you get. And have you heard that? Yeah, I mean, I've heard it so many times with owning both Compliance 4 and the Best Ever You network. I mean, those were, especially the Compliance 4 one, that was a big shift in our lives to go back to owning our own compliance business.
Yeah,
With
yeah,
it was outsourced chief compliance officer work and mutual fund work in that space of financial services, which is
right.
kind of where my entire background was prior to the Best Ever You network.
Yeah,
So that's how that kind of fits in there. But everything, I think it's really important too to understand that everything can fit together if you allow it to.
mm,
You know, who knows? You know, the hugest accounting firm in the world might need cookies for their event.
right,
You never know how that works. And you got
right.
the connection. So it's just really important to connect those dots
Yeah,
and do the things that you truly love to do. Now, I'm not recommending that everybody just ups and quits their job and, you know, uh, goes and starts a cookie business or anything like that.
right.
There's some seriousness to that, you know.
Hmm, hmm.
Got to be able to stomach a startup. Um,
Yeah.
sure.
The 24/7, the ups and downs, the pressure, all of it, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. I've had a lot of quitting moments actually too,
Yeah,
where somebody I had a. Do you want to hear that? Like a
sure.
quitting
Yeah,
moment? That
yeah,
makes sense because
absolutely.
you know not everything is perfect. And really, after my dad passed away in October of 2018, right around January of 2019, I'm like, ugh, what do I do? And I was having a lot of trouble separating the grief and the fiction in my head from the reality of
Mm,
Best Ever You and what I was doing and so forth. There was just a lot going on inside my brain. I just was feeling like um, it was a lot of work, and I was doing a lot of it by myself, and I was grieving on top of it, and you know, on and on and on. The things piled up, and I met Chris Fuller in a group of 400,000 women randomly to learn Zoom.
Yeah.
She wanted to learn Zoom. I'm like, I'll do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as we got to know each other, I kind of fessed up and said, look, I'm really tired. I've been doing a lot of this on my own, getting people interviewing, all these things, and boys and family, and keep trying to keep it sort of all together.
Yeah.
And she was like, I've got you.
Hmm.
And it's so nice when people do say something like that to you right at the right moment. I'm like, good,
Yeah.
because I really need help. And we've done some really cool things together, and it's
That's
been so much
awesome.
fun to know her. We've written best-selling journals, we've written Pinky Doodlebug series, the children's books. We've done a lot of neat things together, and she is just really brilliant with branding and classes, and we teach people to become life coaches, just so many things. So
Yeah. Such a diverse, um, you know, skill set that you have from compliance and businesses and kind of mutual funds and all that to writing a children's book. Those are such diverse things. I imagine you use a lot of the same skills to stay focused and do what you need to do, right? So it's not like you have to completely change, but who you are in each of those settings, it's just the information or the topic changes, really.
yeah, that's a really good point. I kind of view each thing as sort of like a project, and
Mm.
I project manage. I think I'm probably a project manager of sorts. So when I look at, I'm just gonna hold this up. When I look at Pinky Doodlebug,
Yeah.
I know that I can't draw. There it is. That she's really cute and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I know that I can't draw to save my life. I can barely draw a stick figure.
Yeah.
And so when you do a project like this and you have a dream, I'm like, I really want her to come. Hang on, I'm trying to find Pete the Porcupine.
Yeah.
He's a favorite character in the thing, but I couldn't draw Pete the Porcupine if I tried.
Right.
So, but I knew I had this thing in my head called Pinky Doodlebug.
Yeah.
And I was like, who can help me make this book? And we found a publisher for it. They found an illustrator for it, and we worked really hard to do this book, to get the character right, to get the story right, and Chris helped to get the rhyming right. So when
Mm.
you have I'm going to go back to that goal thing. When you have a goal to do something, getting the right people to support you and around your project is very important.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
what helps you succeed. I do not think still that we do many things alone.
Yeah.
No.
No, I completely agree. I couldn't agree more, actually, because there are so many times I think in my own life where I felt like someone came along right at the right moment when I was just about to give up, or I was really questioning myself, or I was in my own head so much that I was sending myself in a spiral that had nothing to do with reality. And it
Yeah.
only had to do with the story that I was creating in my head, which is chapter, I think, 4 and 5 in my book, where we talk about that narrative of kind of, we pile so much on that has really not much to do with the reality of the situation. And so it sounds like you take things a chunk at a time. Like, here's this project, this is what I want to do. Let me make some sense of it. Let me organize it. Let me see who I need to connect with. Let me get out of my head and get out and connect with people and things. Your heart. Yeah.
Here to here, always. I can't stress that enough.
Hmm.
Because and I needed a reminder there too in 2019, because my heart ached, my head ached, everything ached from my father passing.
Yeah.
And to really go from here to here, though, and really be like, does my heart say I really want to continue on with the Best Ever You Network?
Yeah.
Who's talking here? What is this all? I love the Best Ever You Network. I use the people on it, the contributors, for my own personal advice, for my own, I love the Best Ever You Network.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I didn't give up,
I
because I
love
felt like it. And I've got a sign in front of me too that says, never, ever, 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 ever give up, ever, 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 never, ever. So it goes on and on and on. And then I have another one in front of me. If I look at my desk, it says, remember your value.
I love it.
One that says, help people get results.
Awesome.
Things like that. So those are the things that sort of drive me when I have those moments, to remember, wait a minute, this is bigger than just this moment.
Yeah.
And
Just finding finding the little things that are going to give you the energy that you need in order to keep going,
Yeah,
because it is a long haul. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And every day requires a lot of energy.
it does. And you question yourself. And so when you question yourself, go back to those things that maybe ground you.
Yes.
I'm a really big fan of grounding myself in gratitude every day. I'm a person
Mhm.
who's resuscitated twice from life-threatening food allergies, once while 6 months pregnant with our son, Cameron. And so I feel very lucky. And the ER doctor who saved my life said, "You're really lucky to be here."
Mm.
Really lucky, because my blood pressure was all the way down to almost nothing. And I woke up on kidney machines and all sorts of stuff. And so um, it just, we are lucky to be here. And so when you have that philosophy of grounding and gratitude, where each moment of your life really matters, and how you impact other people matters, and how you treat other people, it just all sort of matters.
No,
Yeah,
I
makes it
completely,
huge. Yeah.
absolutely. And I know you've shared that story with me, or I'm sure not the whole thing, but I know that I've talked to you about those life threatening experiences. And um, I can imagine that there was some shift in perspective
Oh, yeah.
after those experiences, because we realize, when we realize, or we come face to face with our mortality, I think we tend to realize what's important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think a lot of us are experiencing that with COVID right now too. When you
Mm.
come face to face with something like this, you really shift what you want to do. And we're seeing that with people changing their jobs, changing their locations, changing a lot of things about themselves, to
Yeah.
really hone in on what's most important and focus on that. And I like seeing that part of the pandemic, not much else. So
Right, right. I agree as well. I think, though the pandemic has wreaked havoc in so many ways and done such terrible things, there have been so many people who have also spoken about the transformation that they've been able to create out of the angst and concern of all of it.
yeah.
Right?
I have a thing I've put on my refrigerator every day during COVID, where every day I do a star or a heart or something on it. And sadly, I now have, however many months piled up in a thing. I binder clip them, because this has been going on so long. And I was like, what exactly am I trying to say to myself, or do, or what? And I'm just like, survive, survived, 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 survived. We're all okay, survived. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at that, and I did a different colors for it. It's just sort of my way of marking through it.
Mm.
Interesting. I haven't really processed it all yet, but I went to take August off yesterday and put September up, and I put it in my palm. Like, I actually have a pile. It's a sad
Yeah.
pile of
Yeah.
of the calendar moments. Mm.
Yeah. Well, and that's powerful. I can even just hear it in your voice as you're talking about it. There's just, I think life brings us to these places sometimes that we really have to be, like you said before, we have to be grateful for what we have, and the fact that I'm able to get up in the morning, that I'm able to walk and do the things that I appreciate and that I love, instead of being so critical and so down on myself. Uh, just being grateful for the opportunities that I have, and then not wasting time, right?
Right.
Not wasting time beating myself up, or sinking into a place and questioning my ability. And I think that that's an important lesson, and something that I think you're kind of alluding to there with
Yeah,
your.
yeah, I am. I think you just put that so well too. Yeah, that's the time management aspect of this all. I did a survey. This was a couple of years back, of in our group. It was with it. Okay, I can talk. Hang on. Would you rather have $1 million or 1 million minutes? And it just made people sort of think. I'm like, well, what would you like? And it was so shocking that people didn't choose the money; they chose the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Over and over and over again, people chose the time. And then you think, okay, well, if you have so much time, how are you spending it? Because you're not guaranteed it, and all those things. So what really are you doing, and what are your footprints? How are you going to leave the world a better place? What are you doing? And so forth. And I think one of my goals is to help people understand that without having to go through some of the moments that I've gone through to realize
Yeah, absolutely.
and
And
understand it younger, perhaps.
yes, I always say that I wish I knew this stuff when I was 20, but I guess that's just part of life. You
Yeah.
don't really, you have to go through things to learn things.
But I think our children are fortunate in that they've been raised like you and I, our kids have been raised with this. I mean, my kids go hashtag gratitude, mom.
Yeah,
They
love it.
um we did in fact this summer we did hashtag gratitude shirts.
I love it.
So
I
they all
love
have
it. That's
matching
great.
shirts. Here you go, you little stinkers.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Uh,
I have two boys, and I get the eye roll and think about how are you being mindful? Are you being mindful? Have you thought about that? Have you taken a step back? Are you reflecting on how you're operating and how they're like, okay, mom, we got it.
well, I get that's not very best ever you of you, mom.
Oh, that's funny. I love it. I love right. We all have our moments too. It's like that's the other thing is you write a book and or
Can't
you give a speech,
deviate
right?
from it even slightly.
Right. And then, it was really funny. I was with my husband's family, and I made a comment about, kind of being snappy sometimes with my husband. And sometimes I snap at him. And his aunt said to me, "Well, aren't you practicing what you preach?" And I thought, oh. I said, "Well, yeah, but he doesn't practice what I preach sometimes." So we're
Yeah.
both kind of in it, but this is life, right? It's never going to be perfect, but every day you have to get up and you have to keep going and you have to look for support and you have to find the right people and surround yourself with good people and follow your heart and follow your dreams to kind of
Definitely
create that life.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't say perfect ever you. Just says best ever you. And
Right.
it doesn't say beat everybody up to be the best or all of that stuff. It's about you.
Yeah.
I equate it to sort of like somebody running track.
Yeah.
They're constantly trying to improve their own self.
Yes.
Yes, it's a
Absolutely.
race, but you're in it.
Right. Right. And
I'll
you're
take track for that. Track taught me that, and I didn't know a thing about track until
yeah.
our son Quade broke his arm playing baseball, sliding into second base. It was a great slide, but his arm got caught underneath, and he broke his arm, and came home, and it was career ending, and he was a good baseball player. And he was like, "Well, what do I do with this?" I'm like, I have no idea. Quade. He goes, "I think I'm going to run." I'm like, "You go." And he ended up being all conference running.
Good for
But I
him.
knew nothing about track, being, baseball mom. And
Yeah.
it was learning lessons, especially driving like 2 hours for a 30-second race or whatever it was.
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
Great, 6 seconds, Quaid.
Right. Because you know how long baseball games last.
Yeah, forever.
Right. Right. That's
So,
great. So can you tell us a little bit? We're coming up to the end here, but I definitely want to jump in to talk a little bit about your book,
oh,
right? You've got so many awesome books, but you've got one book that's coming out very soon. It's not out yet. People can actually pre-order it. And tell us about it, and then tell us where they can go to pre-order it, because you've given me a little sneak peek of it, and I absolutely love it. Anyway, I'll let you describe it. I just think it's a really cool book.
you can chime in and describe it because it hasn't found its legs just yet with the world, but it's called The Change Guidebook:
Yeah.
How to Align Your Heart, Truth, and Energy to Find Success in Every Area of Your Life.
Mm.
And it's published by HCI and distributed by Simon and Schuster. And so I moved from Hay House to there. And it is it's basically the 10 steps of change. It's the 10 steps that we go through to make change in our life or cope or deal with an unforeseen circumstance in our life.
Mm.
So it takes the readers through a process. The book is structured like a narrative from me,
Mm-hmm.
and then stories from people, 2 stories from people, and then actual exercises that you can go through.
Wow.
And you can pre-order that wherever books are found. So you can just I think we'll put a link up or whatever. Or I have links everywhere in my stuff, but it's
I'll
put
put
it on Amazon. It's up on Amazon and pre-order. It's doing pretty well, I'm told, in pre-order mode. But our lives as authors depend on your pre-orders because that determines the life of the book. So I'm very grateful for all of the support that people have been giving me with the book. It's
awesome.
It's wonderful, and you're part of it. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for your story and you kind of eagle-eyeing it like you did, and
Thank you.
your endorsement, and that makes me just thank you. I love what you said about it.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I said what I felt when I looked through it and kind of read a little bit about it. And so it was a result of what you created. So kudos to you for doing that.
And I love your book too. I mean, your book is just beautiful, and that we talk about that too. You know, the ripple effect.
Right. Right. And I change it to ripple affect because affect is the emotion that we carry with us, and that our affect impacts people around us, and the impact from others ripples out to us as well, and we carry it with us in our life, and it can become a weight and become a heavy blanket, or it can become a light, depending on how we use it and how we harness it, and really getting to a place where we understand it first. And so I think that we have a lot in common, and a lot of synergistic energy here. And so I'm so grateful for you for being here. You're one of the things that I'm grateful for today. Is your visit on this podcast and just being who you are. And I want to thank you for being here today. If you want to get in touch with Elizabeth, this is her LinkedIn address. You can also get in touch with her via thebesteveryou.com. Again, you can pre-order the book wherever books are sold. And thank you again, Elizabeth, for being here. I really appreciate it. Any last words?
I don't know. I think we should end on this.
Flash cooler, right?
Hot flash cooler.
We had a discussion for those watching. We had a little discussion about age-related.
Being 52.
Yeah.
Around your neck, you know. And then
it's a lifesaver,
right? Here's the thing. I think you really can't go through a day without completely laughing.
Right.
Please laugh at yourself.
Right.
All this seriousness, all this everything, you know, please just remember to go right here and just have a big chuckle, because we're funny.
Right. And it's not about ego. It's
much cooler now though, isn't it?
Right. I know, long sleeve shirts in the summer, right? You got to put that on. Elizabeth, this has been wonderful. It's been a great discussion. I love learning about you and about everything that you're doing. Elizabeth's books are also available anywhere that books are available. You can look her up and find the 8 books from Percolate all the way down to the guidebook. And I think that you'll love all of them. They're all different, and they're all meaningful and powerful books. So check those out. Check out the Best Ever You show when you can. And thank you again, Elizabeth, for being here. And
thank you very much.
Yeah,
so grateful for you.
Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone who was watching. Doreen said to cut the sugar. It keeps away the hot flashes.
That's fun.
That's not going to happen. Right.
I'd rather wear this and eat my brownie. That's what I'm going to do.
Right.
Get through 80s, whatever this is.
Right. Thanks.
And I don't make money for that either, by the way. I just as happy.
I love it. Oh gosh, that's great. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Yes, absolutely. And if you want to learn more about me or get in touch with me, you can contact me at gameplanu.org or on LinkedIn. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.